Candidates Forum on behalf of Indivisible Ohio District 15. Again, we are so excited. I mean, looking around and seeing all these chairs full is amazing. So thank you everyone for coming out. If you haven't had a chance to check out any of the tables around the room in our meet and greet areas, you will have an opportunity to do so immediately after the forum, and all of our candidates will have tables, as well as all of our co-sponsoring organizations. So please make some time to stop by, check out the info they have, and you'll even be able to take some actions to participate in your democracy. So I do have a couple of logistical announcements to make for today's event. First, if you have not stopped at the table outside in the hallway to sign in, please do so after the event. We want to make sure we get a record of everyone who's here so we can keep you updated on events in the future. Second, we are live streaming and recording this event so that voters who aren't able to be here today can find out about our candidates. So just keep that in mind as you ask questions and move around the room. If you want to avoid being on camera, look around for the cameras because they are here. And then last, if you need to use the restroom, you can go out the doors at the back of the room, turn left, and you'll see the restrooms at the end of the hall. So as we move on toward meeting the candidates and talking about the issues, I want to just give a little bit of background about our goals in putting this event together. So the mission of Indivisible Ohio District 15, in case you haven't heard of us, is to protect our core values, things like equality, respect, and tolerance, from being infringed upon by policies that our elected officials implement. So unfortunately, in the past year, that has meant that a lot of times we're standing up for the very foundation of our democracy. We believe that all citizens deserve a voice in their government. So what does that mean? We believe that they deserve the right to vote and the ability to exercise that right. That also means they deserve the right to be heard by their representatives and the ability to access those representatives. And finally, it means they deserve the right to meet all of the candidates who will be on the ballot, and also the ability to get on the ballot themselves if they choose to do so. So we hope that this event is going to serve the purpose of protecting those rights. And I do want to mention that we are, of course, disappointed that our current representative in District 15, Steve Stivers, declined to participate in today's event and be here with you all. Unfortunately, Representative Stivers has a track record of avoiding public dialogue with his constituents. And that really weakens all of our voices in our government. So we hope that this election year you will join us in holding Representative Stivers accountable to his duty to represent his constituents. So on the other hand, we are very excited that both Democratic candidates, Rob Jarvis and Rick Neal, and future Libertarian candidate, Johnny Miller, are here with us today. So before we meet our moderator and begin the forum, I want to give you all some background about Libertarian Johnny Miller. So some of you may know that Johnny Miller was originally listed as one of the candidates participating in the forum, and here he is. Yes, so thank you for being here. And so you may be confused about why his name is no longer listed on our flyer and on our event. And I really want to say that I speak for myself and for Indivisible Ohio District 15 and all of our co-sponsoring organizations when I say that the decision we faced was a difficult one. As I mentioned, our goal in holding this event is to give all the voters in District 15 the ability to access all the candidates on the ballot. And after Representative Stivers declined to be here, we were still really excited to lift up the voices of the Democratic and Libertarian candidates. However, after the official ballots were released at the end of February, it was unfortunately clear that Johnny Miller wasn't going to be on the May ballot. And as relative newcomers to the political scene ourselves, we had to do some investigation. We found out that as a Libertarian and a potential third party or independent candidate, The rules are very complicated and have in fact been designed in order to make it more difficult to get on the ballot. So this is the type of suppression that we want to fight against, and yet we found ourselves in a really difficult situation. Since Johnny Miller has longer until May 7th to file his paperwork if he wants to run as an independent, we really didn't know whether he would be on the final ballot or not. So our decision as a planning team was to limit the participants in the forum to those candidates who were confirmed as being on the ballots. However, Johnny Miller had a legitimate concern that by preventing him from being here today, we were accepting and participating in that very suppression that we want to fight. So what we want to do is give you all a chance to meet Johnny Miller, both in a statement here before the event and at a table in the meet and greet area after the forum. So it's important that while we protect the validity of the forum by ensuring that only confirmed candidates participate in the Q&A, we also make a space for Johnny Miller to talk to us all about the obstacles that libertarian candidates in Ohio face in being heard and getting on the ballot. So Mr. Miller also has a petition with him today, and any registered voter is able to sign that and help get him on the ballot, so please stop by his table afterwards. And I would now like to introduce Johnny Miller to speak a little bit about those obstacles and also talk about his hopes for his future candidacy.
Okay, so don't throw any potatoes or tomatoes at me, I'm bad. So I'm a libertarian candidate. The Republican Party has spent a lot of money trying to keep us off the ballot. I wouldn't know why. I mean, they're way bigger than us. Oh, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm bad at this. So I'm just a normal guy who's fed up with politics as usual. We're trying to get back on the ballot. The whole system is kind of set against us and against the underdogs. So, well, I'm not gonna make you endure any other terrible stuff. Like I said, I'm bad at this. So, come back and talk to me after the event.
So I'm really glad that he's able to be here with us today, and please do take him up on his offer and go chat with him after the event. Here today, that's former WSYX reporter and TV program host, Carol Looper, and here she is at the table. So as a reporter, Ms. Looper covered stories from presidents to political campaigns, from the courts to the coroner's office. She's written and covered live many different stories ranging from breaking news to elections and medical breakthroughs. She has won many awards in her impressive career, and we are very excited that she decided to join us for this important event. Thanks, Carol.
I have pages and pages of instructions to read you so you understand how and why this is being done. The lavalier microphone, which I have for 35 years used in television, and of course we had gremlins there, we have gremlins here today. So this mic isn't working, so we're going to share, if that's okay. Sure. I would like to ask you all to please turn off your phones, silence them. Any noise-making devices that you might have, please silence them. I've also been asked to ask you to hold your applause till the total end of the afternoon. You know who you support, and we're going to have everybody on level playing field. Now to the structured instructions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. Each question will be asked to each candidate. At the beginning of the forum, I am to draw a name, and whoever I draw will be first. And then that'll be the correct order of the candidates to answer the first question. And then somebody is going to hold up cards, hi Mary, telling me who is to answer the question next. Each candidate has 2 minutes to answer each question. The order in which the candidates answer the question posed will rotate so that the same candidate will not answer first or last each time. I have an option of asking a follow-up question for clarification. These are not my questions. These are committee questions that were drawn up, but I have the option to do a follow-up. The candidate will have 1 minute to answer the follow-up. In front of me is a timekeeping team. The timekeeping team is 2 people. You see them here, Jean and Trish. One person has a cell phone timer, the other holds the time cards. There's a green card for 1.5 minutes, a yellow card for 30 seconds, and a red card when time is up. I'm not mean or anything, but if I say your time is up, it means your time is up. Stop immediately, you may breathe. The purpose of the event is to promote discussion of issues and policies so that the people here can make intelligent decisions when you go to vote. Candidates are asked, please, to talk directly to the audience or to the cameras and not to each other. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes at the end for a closing statement, and then at the end you will be welcome to talk to the candidates. And I appreciate everybody being here. The first question is very long, and first statement, we're going to start with a statement. Rob, you get the first 2 minutes to make your opening statement. Rick, you'll be next.
Thanks. I'm going to stand. I'm not the tallest gentleman in the room. How did we come to this moment? How are we here in this place right now today? For me, as I feel it is the same for many of you, it's been a baptism by fire, a step out into the unknown, a leap into the darkness. I've never run for office before, and I actually had to Google how to do it in the beginning. But the reality is that the cause that I wanted to fight for was worth the fear of stepping out into that dark space. So everywhere I've gone, everywhere I've been, it's been a baptism by fire, and I believe it's that way for many of you. Many of you are being active now for the first time. Many of you are getting into politics, getting involved in the issues for the first time. Many of you are running for office for the first time. And that's something that highlights the energy of what this thing is that we call the blue wave. But it's a crucible to be baptized by fire. And what comes from that crucible, I believe, is steel. And I would challenge you all here today to steel yourselves for the fight to come. It is your burden of responsibility to stand in judgment of myself and of Rick to determine if we are ready for that fight. What you can expect of me today are clear, direct answers. I don't intend to spend all of my time highlighting the failures of other politicians. I want to present with you my clear vision for this district, for this state, and for this nation. I want to thank Indivisible for having us here today. This is how democracy truly works. You should all be very proud of yourselves, and I am humbled to stand here before you. Thank you very much.
All right, Gene, ready? All right. Hey, everybody, it's great to be here. My name is Rick Neal. I'm a candidate to run against Steve Stivers this fall in the 15th District. It is really, really great to be here. I feel like I met some of you, when was that? February, April, and the organizing meeting for Indivisible 15 here last year. It's really, really good to see so many familiar faces because I feel like Indivisible is where I got my start in this after my husband and I took our girls to the Women's March in Washington in January of 17. I joined the Indivisible group to stand up and fight back, and where it took me was in running against Steve Stivers. I'm a first-time candidate. My background is in the Peace Corps and in humanitarian relief. I lived and worked overseas for a long time, running public health programs for refugees, and even took a break from my job as a stay-at-home dad a few years ago to go respond to the Ebola epidemic in West Africa. And as I've gotten out into this district over these last several months, I've been running this campaign since last August, 3 big things have come out as big issues that we need to work on because Steve Stivers isn't. Better paying jobs, affordable health care for everyone, and real solutions to the opioid crisis. I couldn't be more proud to be here today and to be stepping up to take this on. It's been a great campaign so far. I've really enjoyed it. I've met terrific, terrific people from Wilmington to Athens to Fairfield County and Logan and Vinton County and all the counties in this district. Really great people, really great stories of people ready for change. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to have been able to put together a strong campaign so far. We've raised more money than any of Steve's challengers in the past. I'm really proud to have the endorsement of Senator Sherrod Brown and Columbus City Councilwoman Liz Brown, and have put together a strong team who's here with me today. So thank you, and again, it's really great to be here. It's really good to see everybody. Thanks very much.
It's flu season. It would probably be better if we each had our own microphone. All right, who do we go to right now? We've got Rob. We started with Rob? Okay. The first question covers health care. And again, remember, and I won't remind you again, 2 minutes to answer. What do you think would be the optimal health care system for the country? And I'm going to name 3. Free market, private insurance-based, limited regulation. Continuation of the ACA, Affordable Care Act, with modifications to address cost and coverage issues. Or single-payer, universal coverage, some other option, or a combination of the above. Let's start there.
Small question.
Rob, you got lucky. Small question. I didn't write these, so I'm just reading them.
It's okay. Microphone.
Microphone.
Thank you. I'm a high school teacher, and I can tell you a story from just a little less than 2 weeks ago. One of my students was in a car accident, not incredibly serious. He still came to school, but after a while that morning, he started showing symptoms of a concussion. One of my colleagues sent him down to the office to contact medical services. His response, this young man's response was, "We cannot afford for me to go to the emergency room." Think about that. 2018, greatest nation on earth, and American citizens cannot afford to be sick or injured. The time for talk is over, and now is the time for action. We need single payer not 10 years from now, not 8 years from now, not 4 years from now. We need it today, and we should have had it 4 decades ago. Single payer healthcare will undo job lock in America, meaning that people who are stuck in a job that they hate they will no longer be afraid to leave that job for fear of losing their health care coverage. Single payer will allow people to go back and further their education, go back to retraining for new jobs, and to start their own businesses. I believe that parents in Franklin County deserve to have the confidence when they wake up in the morning that if someone is sick, they can go to the best doctors in Columbus. And they should be able to feel secure tucking their children into bed at night. That if anything goes wrong, the emergency room no longer has to act as the family doctor. Single-payer healthcare will begin an entrepreneurial renaissance in this country and free Americans to do the things that we do best: create, innovate, and lead this world.
Thanks. So yeah, I agree that the optimal healthcare system for this country is universal guaranteed healthcare. I'm a public health guy, and I've studied this and I've lived it. I think that the way to get there so that it's sustainable is in 3 steps. I mean, short term, we really need to get to Congress and get Democrats in Congress so that we can stabilize the Affordable Care Act and stop sabotaging it, and get it, and to protect Medicare and to stop the attacks on Medicaid. You know, the second step, though, that we can see in the really near term is working to follow Sherrod Brown's lead and expand Medicare to everyone ages 55 and older as a step towards expanding Medicare for all. So that's the plan that I want to do, and I'm really glad that this is the first question because I think it's one of the most important things that we have to deal with. No one, should have to go to the ER or go bankrupt just to get the health care that they need. Thanks.
And you've said a few specifics, but the last part of this question is, what specific steps would you take to move forward toward the healthcare system you advocate? I'll give it back to you because you were most recent?
Sure. So I mean, that's what I meant about specific steps when I was talking about the 3 steps that I think we should take in the short term to protect and improve on the Affordable Care Act and protect Medicaid, not attack it and Medicare. And the second step then, the specific thing that we can work on is work with Sherrod Brown to expand Medicare to everyone ages 55 and older. And then the third step specifically that we can do is expand Medicare to all. And the reason that I'm focused on these 3 steps in sequence is to achieve a sustainable solution instead of, because I mean, I think a lot of people felt like the Affordable Care Act was, ended up not being as sustainable as we needed politically. So that's, those are the specific steps that I want to take.
The Affordable Care Act was a step in the right direction, and if President Obama had gotten everything that he had asked for in the Affordable Care Act, we wouldn't be in quite the precarious situation that we're in right now. But I do believe in taking a more ambitious and aggressive approach and putting legislation in Congress immediately for single payer. Not just because it's the right thing to do for people's health, but because it will end the craziness and the bureaucracy of our very convoluted system. We have the VA healthcare, we have the CHIP program, we have Medicaid and Medicare and tax deductions for health insurance, and all of that costs our government quite a bit of money to administrate. The bureaucracy is very confusing and expensive. So what I think we need to do from a standpoint of fiscal responsibility is to introduce legislation immediately for single-payer health care, and that's what I would intend to do if I am elected to Congress. I can't just count on being re-elected. I want it now.
And Rick gets this first. It's also a healthcare question. According to some sources, parts of District 15 are being devastated by the opioid addiction epidemic. Do you believe that drugs, particularly opioids, are a problem in the district? And if so, should it be addressed at the federal level? If not, what is your perspective?
Thanks. So yes, clearly opioids are a huge problem in this district. I hear it again and again as I'm out talking to folks. And you know, the big thing is that it's in every community. It's right here in Hilliard, you know, and all the way through every county in this district and every community. I met with a really great mom a few months ago, Monica Mitchell, who's from here in Hilliard, because she's a community activist. And I wanted to meet with her, expecting her to be able to tell me about you know, all the amazing things that she's been able to do right here in Hilliard. And she said she's still trying to raise awareness. It was a real wake-up call for me, that as bad as we know that this problem is, and as bad as it's lived for so many people, that there's still so much that we need to do from raising awareness, but all the way up to the federal government. And there's definitely a role for those of us who want to be in Congress and for the federal government to do. Resource allocation is obviously a big part of this, and we need to make sure that every part of the federal government has the resources that it needs to fight this epidemic. Again, I'm a public health guy. I want to take a public health approach to this. And I'm a humanitarian, and that means that my focus first and foremost is on saving lives. And in order to save lives using a public health approach, that means residential treatment with medication-assisted treatment. And those are tough sells for a lot of folks in our district, but that's what's going to keep people alive, and that's what's going to get people back on their feet. The other thing, though, that we can do in the federal government is lift up everywhere people like Monica and people like the woman who I met out in Baltimore, who is part of Citizens and Police United, working to raise awareness and bring services to end opioid in her community. So both federal resource allocation, best practices at the federal level, and then lifting up and supporting folks all across this district who know best what's going to work in their communities to keep people alive and get people back on their feet.
Before I became a teacher, I spent a little over 4 years working with children and families in Athens and Hocking and Perry counties, all counties in this district. I worked with many families who have not just been touched, because you don't just get touched by the opioid crisis, you are decimated by the opioid epidemic. I sat in living rooms trying to get paperwork signed, hearing the sound of a police scanner because it was the constant reminder that I'm sitting in a drug home. I've taken parents to get job applications around town only to come home and find that their neighbors have OD'd on the porch in the middle of the afternoon, in the middle of town. The opioid epidemic has claimed the lives of over 64,000 people in just the last year. Donald Trump dedicated 49 seconds of his hour and 20-minute State of the Union address to that. And I know it was 49 seconds because when the Huffington Post called me to ask for my reaction, I was the one that timed it. So if you happen to read that article, you know it came from someone who knows what they're talking about right here in this district. Now, I have spent time observing a volunteer Vivitrol wraparound services-based court program in Hocking County where I saw good people who are suffering, walk up into this program and say, I need help. I'm willing to commit to treatment. We have to treat these people with support, not with scorn. Locking someone in a prison cell for 5 years is not going to magically make them not addicted to drugs anymore. I am tired of the way that we treat this as a let's go after the drug pushers. This needs to be treated as the illness, which is exactly what it is, so that we can provide those wraparound services between mental health, the judiciary, and physical or your general practitioner in order to provide people with the network of support that they need to recover.
And the next question goes to you first, Rob. Gun violence. What do you think can be done realistically to address the epidemic of gun violence in America?
I'm a high school teacher. I was a high school student when Columbine unfolded. I'm a teacher now. 2 of my 3 children attend public school, and my wife is a public school teacher. I am deeply, personally, and professionally invested in this issue, which is why I have unveiled what I believe to be the most detailed and comprehensive policy for gun control that I've seen from any candidate or any elected official. It is a policy that touches on nearly every facet of gun ownership in America, and at its heart, an ascending class licensure system, which will raise the purchasing age to 21, ban bump stocks and all other modifications meant to make a legal gun illegal. It will provide for mandatory background checks, and for those who wish to ascend to the advanced license, a much more intensive safety training and education course with a mandatory medical history report, emphasis on psychological background. This will essentially close the private seller and gun show loopholes without having to say the word ban to anyone. And you ask what makes this realistic? That is what makes this realistic. I have been in communication with conservatives in order to devise a proposal that people might actually get behind on both sides of the aisle. And included in this program, included in this plan, are provisions for tax deductions for the purchase of a gun safe, along with making the mandatory safety and education courses 100% free. I don't believe you should have to pay money just to learn how to exercise your constitutional rights. But what we need here is bipartisan reform. Any candidate can run around and say assault weapons ban, but I'm trying not to think like a candidate. I'm trying to think like a congressman. And what we need is safety now. Okay? We can't just wait for some magic supermajority to show up in Washington that we can override President Trump's inevitable veto. We need to bring conservatives to the table and negotiate.